Come on, YouTube, it's all in the name of science. From powerful tsunamis to discovering new organs, 2018 was packed with impressive scientific discoveries, and we here at TomoNews had a lot of fun sharing them with you. What wasn't fun was, well, getting scientific videos slapped with demonetization, cause apparently showing you what Otzi the Iceman ate for his last meal was too much for YouTube to swallow. We try, YouTube, we try. But here at Tomo, we believe in second chances, so here are our top science stories that YouTube had issues with. Prepare to learn some stuff. Any idea why these videos got demonetized? Let us know in the comments below. First up on the list, an accidental discovery. Yes, scientists were poking inside a human and accidentally happened upon a new organ. Meet the interstitium.
Think we all know about the human body? Think again. Researchers discovered a new organ by accident while looking at a bile duct and noticed tears in dense tissue. They were using a laser imaging technique to measure internal tissue depth via reflected light. Called the interstitium, the organ was never previously noticed, as tissue study involves slicing and chemical treatment. This results in fluid loss. Researchers say the interstitium is a body-wide structure of lymph fluid, collagen, and proteins. The organ is also believed to comprise 20% of all bodily fluids. The study also found that the interstitium had helped cancer cells move from infected areas to other areas of the body via the lymphatic system. Speaking to The New Scientist, one researcher said this was a water slide for cancer.
What was Otzi the Iceman's last meal? Let's keep it cool this time, okay, YouTube? Scientists have found out what an ancient Iceman filled his belly with before he died. Otzi the Iceman was a hunter who died in the Alps 5,300 years ago. His mummified body was discovered near the Italy-Austria border in 1991. Researchers were unable to locate the hunter's stomach until a CT scan revealed the organ was tucked under a rib cage. An analysis revealed that half the stomach contents consisted of the fat and meat of an alpine goat. They also found red deer meat, whole wheat seeds, and traces of toxic bracken fern. The toxic fern may have been ingested accidentally or possibly as medicine for whipworm parasites, which was previously found in his intestines. All in all, Otzi's final meal seemed to be pretty well balanced. Goat fat made sense given the harsh terrain, but as for the taste, it's apparently really horrible. Another discovery. Turns out humans might have been exploring the Philippines long before previous scientific predictions. Humans weren't believed to be in the Philippines until 60,000 years ago, but new findings suggest they were there much earlier. Excavations in the northern Philippine province of Kalinga have uncovered 57 stone tools and more than 400 animal bones from monitor lizards, deer, turtles, and the now extinct stegodon. Researchers also found the mostly intact skeleton of an ancient rhino species. 13 of its bones displayed cut marks indicating it had been butchered for food. The remains were dated to 709,000 years ago. Before this, the earliest indicator of human activity in the country was a 67,000-year-old foot bone uncovered at Kalau Cave. The ancients who hunted the rhino were likely an archaic human species called Homo erectus that may have arrived from China via Taiwan or Borneo via Palawan. Without solid evidence, however, researchers say the hobbit-like Homo floresiensis from nearby Flores Island may also be a suspect. They plan to continue excavating to hopefully find their culprit and maybe even unlock more ancient human mysteries. Let's play a game, Tomo sapiens. Why do you think this video might have been demonetized? Aztec human sacrifices, sacrificial skull racks? Yeah, we may have an idea of why this one was a no-no.
Sacrifice the human, save the world? Modern historians have doubted the existence of a massive skull display that 16th century Spanish conquistadors claimed to have seen in the ancient city of Tenochtitlan, until now. Researchers have uncovered a vast collection of human skulls beneath modern Mexico City, in an area that was once the epicenter of the Aztec Empire. In 2015, the team discovered and began excavating the remains of the Tzompatli, an enormous rack of skulls in front of the Templo Mayor, which is flanked by 2 towers of skull and mortar. Both are believed to be part of human sacrifice rituals. After taking out the tribute's beating heart, priests decapitate the body, reduce it to a skull, and carve holes into the side to mount the skulls on wooden poles. The Mexicans performed the ritual as an offering to the gods and believed doing so would ensure the continued existence of their civilization. 75% of the skulls found at the site belonged to warriors, men aged 20 to 35, but 20% were found to be from women and 5% were of children. Researchers have taken DNA samples from the excavated skulls, which they hope can provide more insight into the grisly ritual and its victims.
Indonesia has had a tough 2018. Here's how an underwater landslide triggered one of the most powerful tsunamis that struck Indonesia this year. Scientists have a theory about what might have caused the tsunami that followed the earthquake in Indonesia last week to be so destructive. The BBC reports the 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck in the center of the island of Sulawesi, triggering 6-meter-tall tsunami waves that crashed into Palu City. The earthquake itself was a strike-slip quake, which means the ground breaks horizontally instead of vertically. Scientists say strike-slip quakes often cause tsunamis that are less than 1 meter tall, not one as tall as the one that hit Indonesia last week. Scientists suspect the earthquake may have triggered an underwater landslide that destabilized sediment underwater, causing it to break free and tumble. Palu's bay's elongated shape also may have amplified the effect of the tsunami. The earthquake and the tsunami have already caused substantial damage in Indonesia, with more than 1,000 people confirmed dead and many more trapped under collapsed infrastructure in Sulawesi. Ancient Swedish massacre? Yeah, we can see why this one got demonetized. This is Sandbyborg. A millennia ago, it was a thriving coastal village, but new evidence shows all inhabitants, every man, woman, and child, were massacred by forces unknown. The Guardian writes that, to this day, locals consider it a dark and dangerous place. They weren't researchers to stay away, but they dug it up anyway. Research published in the journal Antiquity details a 1,500-year-old attack on the ringfort village of Sandbyborg and on the southeastern Swedish island of Åland. To date, 3 of 53 houses have been excavated and the remains of 26 people have been found, including children. One of these contained 9 bodies. Those remains included mostly adults, 3 children, and an infant that were found inside. They were believed to have been slaughtered by raiders or a fire. Elsewhere on the site shows evidence of an elderly man who had fallen over a central fireplace. Researchers say he was unconscious or dead when he fell. There's 50 houses to go and more than likely more remains to be found. Researchers found a plethora of weaponry including swords, spears, and shields, as well as Roman currency and items. This part of Sweden was never part of the Roman Empire, but was influenced by it. The study writes the massacre occurred during a period of great unrest and migration after the fall of the Roman Empire. And it wasn't just people who got maimed. The remains of various animals, a horse, sheep, and a dog, were also found on the site. Researchers say that those responsible for the events at the site may have been trying to establish themselves as a new local ruling elite. So whatever went down was not an act of plunder, but more likely a show of force in the form of a calculated, brutal slaughter. What makes the discovery so haunting, as The Guardian reports, is that no one came back to bury or loot the dead. They were just left to rot. And there's still so much more to dig up. Scientists have only excavated less than 4% of all homes on the ancient site, and there's no telling what else they'll find. Other things we learned in 2018: steer clear of bugs, unless you want to end the year with an allergic reaction. Droves of white-haired caterpillars have invaded the British capital, with experts warning they can trigger allergic reactions in humans and pets. UK officials have issued a health warning following an outbreak of toxic caterpillars of the oak processionary moth across London and southeast England. The species is a native of southern Europe, but was accidentally introduced to Britain via imported live oaks in 2005. Each caterpillar contains 62,000 hairs, which are full of spines that can prick skin. They can be released from the body and stay active for up to 5 years. The hairs contain an irritating substance that can cause skin rashes, eye irritation, sore throats, and breathing difficulties. The British Forestry Commission has begun using biopesticides to help eliminate the caterpillars and have cautioned residents against letting children or pets near affected areas. Traps will also be set for the invasive insects around the 150 hotspots identified by the Commission. Should reducing your caffeine intake be at the top of your New Year's resolution list?
California coffee drinkers are in for a buzzkill after a local judge ruled that everyone must be made aware that their cup of joe could come with the big C. A lawsuit filed by a non-profit organization claims coffee companies failed to warn about acrylamide, a possible carcinogen produced when coffee beans are roasted. Previous studies have shown that animals given high levels of the chemical in drinking water developed multiple tumors, but research on the effects on humans are inconclusive. Experts say the amount of acrylamide ingested in coffee is small compared to eating French fries and potato chips or smoking tobacco. Many studies have even found probable evidence that coffee consumption is associated with a decreased risk of cancer. But because coffee companies failed to show that acrylamide posed no risk or added any health benefits, the judge ruled that coffee sold in California must carry a cancer warning label. Medical experts say a blanket warning linking coffee to cancer could cause unnecessary panic among the general public, especially since there is not enough evidence to suggest that this is, in fact, the case.
Here's other scary research that doesn't affect humans.
New research has found clear evidence of links between tumors in male rats and exposure to radiofrequency radiation. A U.S. National Toxicology Program experiment exposed about 3,000 rats and mice to whole-body radiofrequency radiation for 9 hours a day for up to 2 years. Rats were exposed to the radiation while in the womb, while mice were exposed starting at 5 to 6 weeks old. Rodents lived in specially designed chambers where a transmitting antenna subjected them to RFR fields with frequencies of 900 and 1900 megahertz. The study found evidence that exposure to radiation is associated with tumor development in the hearts, brains, and adrenal glands of male rats. Female rats and male and female mice also developed cancers, but it was unclear if they were linked to radiation exposure. However, NTP scientists and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration stated that the results of the research do not directly affect humans since the rodents were exposed to extreme levels of cell phone radiation, which surpassed the current safety limits on mobile phone radiation.
Speaking of cancer, here's a pen that diagnoses cancer in 10 seconds. Why was this amazing invention demonetized? Scientists at the University of Texas are wondering if the pen is mightier than the scalpel. The pen is designed for use during surgery. After a tissue sample is taken, the surgeon uses a pen connected to a mass spectrometer and foot pump to begin analysis. The pump sends water through the pen via the tubing and forms a droplet. This absorbs molecules from the tissue and is then sent back up the tubing for analysis. The machine investigates the molecules for signs of cancer and provides diagnosis in around 10 seconds. The device was showcased this week at the South by Southwest Festival in Austin, Texas. Parents out there, 2019 is a good year for you to limit your kids' Fortnite time.
A new study has linked excessive gaming, watching TV, or time spent on smartphones to anxiety and depression in kids as young as 2. Research published in Preventive Medicine Reports found that children and teens may have less curiosity, self-control, emotional stability, and a greater inability to finish tasks after just an hour of screen time a day. Researchers analyzed a random sample of over 40,000 surveys from the 2016 National Survey of Children's Health, which looked at kids aged 2 to 17. Adolescents face the highest risk. Those who spent more than 7 hours a day on screens were twice as likely to be diagnosed with anxiety and depression than those who spent only an hour. But younger kids and toddlers whose brains are still developing were also affected. Preschoolers with high screen use were twice as likely to lose their temper. 46% of youngsters were also more likely to not be able to calm down once excited. The findings validate the daily screen time limit set by the American Academy of Pediatrics, 1 hour for ages 2 to 5 and 2 for school-aged kids and adolescents.
2018 wasn't all rat cancer and Aztec human sacrifices. Here's some good news.
According to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, there's an alternative to patients with appendicitis who don't want to get surgery. In the past, appendicitis was considered a medical emergency, with surgeons removing the appendix immediately as they feared there was a possibility it would burst. However, the researchers found that nearly 2/3 of patients with appendicitis don't have to fear their appendix would burst and can choose to take antibiotics instead. Only 7% of patients who received antibiotics were found to have some kind of complication, with the author saying the success rate for the antibiotic treatment was almost 64%. However, 36% of the patients eventually needed surgery to remove their appendix. The author of the study says antibiotics instead of surgery is a feasible, viable, and safe option for those who have an uncomplicated appendix, meaning they don't need to worry about their appendix bursting. In an editorial accompanying the study, the deputy editor of the journal said the treatment has a high chance of success, but that the public could also choose to get surgery if they don't want to worry about appendicitis coming back again.
Things you should get rid of in 2019. Carcinogenic beauty products. Trust us, you look better alive than dead.
A new study has found that chemicals in skincare products can negatively affect women's hormones and may contribute to infertility or breast cancer. Beauty products often contain chemicals such as parabens, which are antimicrobial preservatives, or benzophenones, which serve as UV filters. Researchers from George Mason University collected over 500 samples from 143 women aged 18 to 44 who had no chronic health conditions and didn't use birth control. Analysis of the samples indicate that those with the chemicals present in their system produced abnormal amounts of the reproductive hormones estrogen and progesterone. Too much estrogen has been linked to fibroids and irregular periods, but too little prevents eggs from maturing. Excessive progesterone, meanwhile, is associated with breast cancer and unusual vaginal bleeding. Researchers stated that with cosmetics having such a large impact on women's reproductive health, it's important that women pay attention to ingredients in the products they use. Though results may need to be confirmed with additional research, researchers added that it's best to just avoid using anything that contains these hormone-disrupting chemicals.
So many beauty products, and for what? Chimps still got stronger hygiene game than us humans.
We may have evolved from chimps, but it looks like we've devolved in terms of our cleanliness compared to our furry friends. According to a new study published in the Journal of Royal Society Open Science, chimpanzees maintain cleaner beds compared to humans because they, in essence, change their sheets every night. According to National Geographic, scientists from North Carolina State University swabbed chimpanzee nests in the Isa Valley in Tanzania and discovered only 3.5% of the bacteria found originated from the chimp's own skin, saliva, or feces. This in comparison to a previous North Carolina study that found human beds with bacteria levels around 35%. One explanation for the difference in levels of bacteria is that chimps build a new nest each night, while humans typically sleep in the same room. The researchers also found that chimpanzee nests had few ticks and fleas.
A success for our animal friends. Finally, humans are doing something right, but this still got demonetized.
Yay for large predators, unless you're unlucky enough to get eaten by one. According to Duke University researchers in a press release, large predator sightings such as alligators on the beach, killer whales in rivers, and mountain lions in open fields are a sign that local populations have rebounded thanks to conservation efforts. The study, published in the journal Current Biology, found that alligators and sea otters were actually recolonizing ecosystems that had been prime hunting grounds before humans decimated their populations. Duke scientists say alligators, sea otters, river otters, gray whales, gray wolves, mountain lions, orangutans, and bald eagle populations were either as abundant or more abundant in novel habitats than in traditional ones. Rebounding numbers have shown that several large predators once thought to be highly habitat-specific are actually quite adaptable.
Here's a helpful New Year's resolution. Learn to cook, peeps.
In case you needed more proof that fresh is best, a new study has found that nanoparticles in food packaging may be harming your gut. Canned goods are typically lined with zinc oxide nanoparticles for their antimicrobial properties. When looking at how many nanoparticles would transfer to food, Binghamton researchers found 100 times the recommended daily allowance of zinc oxide. While in the small intestine, the nanoparticles cause the remodeling or loss of microvilli, resulting in reduced cell nutrient absorption. High doses of zinc oxide also triggered pro-inflammatory signaling. This can increase intestinal permeability and allow harmful compounds to pass into the bloodstream. Since only a cell model was used to demonstrate the effects, it's difficult to determine how long-term ingestion can impact human health. For now, the researchers are looking at the nanoparticles' effects on animals.
And finally, got big travel plans for the coming year? You might want to grab a window seat.
Where you sit on a plane apparently matters as far as germ exposure is concerned, at least according to a new study. Human movement around an enclosed space, such as an airplane cabin, can supposedly spread more viruses than recirculated air. Since a person's seat influences their movement, those in the aisle and middle seats are more likely to get up and be exposed to germs. Passengers who pick a window seat and stay there have the least exposure. A study found that on a flight of 150 passengers where one person is sick, only one person on average will become infected. The odds of getting sick are highest among the 11 passengers seated closest to the sick person, 3 beside, 4 in front, and 4 behind. So if you're particular about germs, maybe try booking a window seat next time. And if you just happen to sit next to someone who looks like death warmed over, the overhead air vents might still help you ward away those pesky germs.
There you go. We didn't want to let 2018 go without sharing our top science stories. Any idea why these videos got demonetized? Let us know in the comments below.